Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 10 of CWN Weekly. That means 10 weeks in. I've almost lasted 3 months at this, so I'm doing pretty well. Anyways, Chris Maloney with you live from London, Ontario, Canada. Weather isn't the greatest right now, so luckily I do have hardwire into my my router, my modem. The cool thing is you won't see any glitchiness unless the power goes out. And if the power goes out, that's it. We'll go on to episode 11 next week. But anyways, it is Friday, October the 23rd. So just about a week away from Halloween. But big week in wrestling coming up. Big weekend in wrestling coming up. So actually kind of cool. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Like I said, this is episode 10. You can check us out at cwnonline.ca, as well as social media, of course, as you can see streaming across the screen there. So we'll get into anniversaries and birthdays for this week coming up. So 24th, which is tomorrow, ELP, otherwise known as El Fantasmo, born 1986. So he will be 34 years old. He's out of Vancouver, British Columbia. Was a big part of the ECCW regime out there before he went to New Japan, joined the Bullet Club. So he is turning 34 years old tomorrow. Robert Kurgan Mallet. Otherwise, well, I guess I shouldn't say otherwise. I already pronounced him as Kurgan. But the fact is, he 1969, he was born on the 26th. So that would make him, if my math is accurate, 51, I believe. That's not too bad. He's I had the honor of getting to see him a couple years ago at London Comic Con here. Actually was probably about 10 feet away from the guy. Absolutely enormous, absolutely a huge guy. Nice personality from New Brunswick as well. So he's a Maritimer, but one of the biggest guys I've probably seen close up. As well as the 28th, he would have been, let me see here, 69 years old. But the one and only Iron Mike Sharp was born on the 28th of this month. Passed away on January 17th, 2016 at the age of 64. It's interesting because in the Maritimes where I grew up, I was there till about the time I was 12 years old. Came to London, kind of went back and forth. But the fact is, when I came up here, there was this thing called Maple Leaf Wrestling. And it used to go on, I think, Saturday nights. I think it was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night on CHCH. I don't know if it was CHCH back then, but anyways, they would show the old Maple Leaf Wrestling, the stuff that happened in Maple Leaf Gardens, so to speak. And there was this guy named Iron Mike Sharp, and he was so loud and so obnoxious and so burly. And the fact is, he was, Hamilton's own, and his nickname was Canada's Greatest Wrestler, I think it was. And but the fact is, he was, just an old school wrestler with an old school look. Had that little kind of cast on his arm, much the same as Cowboy Bob Orton. But he was a recognizable talent as a jobber, so to speak. But he ended up passing away at 64 years old back in 2016. But he would have, like I said, turned, what did I say again? 39, 49 plus 20, 69 years old on the 28th. So, anyways, it's Friday. My math is a little bit off, but I'm doing my best. Major news of the weekend. This is unfortunate here, but this came of October the 18th, and a wrestler known as Príncipe Aéreo, otherwise known as Luis Angel Salazar, passed away following a match. So this was on the 18th, and this was posted by Post Wrestling there. So tragedy struck Saturday night when wrestler Príncipe Aéreo died following a match in Mexico City at Arena San Juan Pantelden for the Mexico Wrestling promotion. During a tag match with Príncipe Aéreo and Puma de Oro against Brazo de Oro Jr. and Redimo, Aéreo collapsed in the corner following 2 chops he took. Once they saw the condition of Príncipe Aéreo, the match was stopped as the EMTs began to work on him, and he was transported. He was later pronounced dead. Salazar had been wrestling since 2010. That was the initial news that came out from Post Wrestling, like I said, on the 18th. On the would have been the 19th, I believe. This was shortly following that. So Príncipe Aéreo's cause of death wasn't a heart attack. This was on webisjericho.com, as well as reported from other websites as well. Reported yesterday that Luis Angel Salazar, who wrestled as Príncipe Aéreo, passed away following a suspected heart attack while wrestling on Saturday night. However, the official medical report has now confirmed that the official cause of death was a ruptured middle cerebral artery, which is one of the arteries that supply blood to the brain. A video circulating online showing his collapse starts mid-match and begins with Salazar receiving chops to the chest, which is why a heart attack was initially presumed. Mexa Wrestling, Lucha Time, who were the promoters behind the show, Salazar was wrestling for the time, have stated on Facebook they would be covering all of his hospital and funeral costs, and that was the latest I heard from that. So unfortunate news. I believe he was in his 20s. I want to say 24. That may be incorrect, but he was young. I do believe early 20s, but another wrestler passes away, unfortunately. Reminds me of Silver King, the way he ended up passing away. There was a fella, I'm forgetting his name right now, and with all due respect, but Rey Mysterio was in the ring with a wrestler. He ended up passing away. It wasn't Rey Mysterio's fault, but such sad news when, it's different when they pass away outside of the ring. But when they're inside of the ring, it's completely, a heavy heart that goes along with it, because I can't imagine those fans that were there live. Like, how do you come back to watching wrestling again? If you're watching the event live, how do you watch that again? As a promoter, how do you continue to go through with things? All relates back, obviously, to May of 1999. Owen Hart, obviously, the tragedy that happened there. But the fact is, it's a tough business and sad business at times. And thoughts and prayers with Príncipe Aéreo's, family, friends, and fans. But like I said, he was early 20s, and that is unfortunate there. From there, guys, we'll get into the news of the week, and we're going to start here with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And now this was last Sunday, where it officially concluded with the G1 Climax 30 tournament. But I'll leave it at this, because when I went off the air last week, I was saying how great would it be to see Sanada take on Kota Ibushi in the finals. I got my wish. I was like, holy crap, this is actually coming true. So when I woke up on Saturday morning, and all of a sudden I had seen that the final match had taken place leading into the finals, I was like, oh my God, this is actually amazing. Sanada, who's long overdue for the championship, taking on Kota Ibushi, who won the G1 Climax 29 last year, and they're finally going to go at it. Anyway, G1 Climax 30 takes place last Sunday. Kota Ibushi wins. I guess it was one of the longest matches in G1 Climax history. Still haven't seen it yet. I have downloaded it, so I will be watching it eventually. But Sanada ends up losing to Kota Ibushi. Kota Ibushi wins for the second time to go into G1 30 Climax. He will be fighting for the double championship come Wrestle Kingdom 15. I will announce that momentarily here. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, it's going to be a great Wrestle Kingdom, so I'll leave it at that. Something else that came about, and this was on the 19th, was it has to be Naito. So Kota Ibushi speaks to press, a two-time G1 Climax winner. Ibushi wants Naito. So there is a match coming up, I think it's between Evil and Naito, and that is Power Struggle. And the fact is, Naito has the ability to lose both championships. They haven't said whether or not they're separate in the championships for G1 Climax. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, Kota Ibushi wants Naito. So that should be taking place, I believe, on night 1 of G1 Climax. But I'll get into that momentarily here. But like Naito versus Kota Ibushi for the championships, the double championship was absolutely phenomenal there. So I'm just going to bring up this. So I want to talk about, like I said, Wrestle Kingdom 15. Which is coming up. I've got a long list of articles that have taken place just this week here, but I'm going to bring up the Wrestle Kingdom article here. So Wrestle Kingdom 15 coming January 4th and 5th, 2021. This January, New Japan Pro Wrestling made history with the first ever back-to-back wrestling events in Tokyo Dome with the double gold dash. Jushin Thunder Liger's retirement match was there, and much more besides. Wrestle Kingdom 14 was a phenomenal success that had the world watching. During the G1 Climax finals on October the 18th, Wrestle Kingdom 15 was officially announced as New Japan Pro Wrestling returns once more for 2 nights in Japan's legendary stadium. After the legendary weekend that was January 4th and 5th, 2020, how will New Japan Pro Wrestling march into January 4th was Wrestle Kingdom. January 5th was Dominion. So that is the Wrestle Kingdom as well as New Japan news for the week. Obviously, they've got Road to Power Struggle that took place earlier this morning. That was night 1, leading into Power Struggle, leading into the World Tag Team, as well as the New Japan, the IWGP Junior Tag Team Championship tournaments. Both of those tournaments will be taking place leading into Wrestle Kingdom there. So I just want to get either a thumbs up or a thumbs down from my guest waiting in the queue there, whether or not he's ready to go. As soon as I get, he's got a thumbs up there. I told him as soon as basically New Japan Pro Wrestling was done, I'd invite him on. So, and he's looks like traveling as he walking here. I'm just gonna wait until he gets situated here. I'll get his thoughts on some of the stuff here because I don't know if he had talked about it last night. Some of it will be double up for him, but some of it won't be. So, like I said, I'll wait for him to get situated. Once that happens, I will get into the rest of the news here. I will do this as I'm kind of stalling here, but in fact, he's got a double thumbs up there. So there is some big news coming up towards the end of the show. Not only will I have one guest who I'm about to announce, but I will have another guest as well to make this official. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it again next week. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to bring on my guest right now, Shawn Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling. I'm going to do this old school style with the side-by-side. Shawn, how you doing?
Yeah, doing okay. Quiet day at work, and karaoke and swimming. Can't complain. I get paid for it.
Karaoke. Yeah, so karaoke and swimming. Shawn's, I tell you this, Shawn's job in real life is isn't one of those things that you can really take easily sometimes. You know, it's a lot of situational situation. Does it even make sense? A lot of situational situations in the fact that you never know what you're going to go into, from day one to day two, so to speak. Every week's probably different for you. But the fact is, I've heard this on numerous occasions that he's getting paid to go swimming. He's getting paid to go on trips. He's getting paid to basically sit there on a bench and read a book. Anyways, it's a career job for you. It's I can tell you this personally here on air. The fact is, I've seen Shawn have jobs that weren't necessarily the greatest. Didn't bring a smile to his face, so to speak. But this one has. Obviously, it's changed your life as far as personal stuff goes and everything else. As he was wiping his nose there with a wedding ring on his finger. But anyways, yeah, it has been a good thing for Shawn.
Scratching my nose.
Yeah, scratching his nose. And I'll tell you this, I know this firsthand from him saying this. He has talked wrestling at work, come up with ideas for his shows, for ideas just for everything else. And sometimes it's hard to tell whether or not he's on lunch or he's just kind of bored, and he's because he was doing a lot of stuff today. But anyways, officially, guys, Shawn Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling, scumbags.ca. Facebook.com/groups/Scumbags of Wrestling. Obviously, you've seen him on TNT Thursday Night Throwdown. You've seen him on the Scumbags of Wrestling podcast. He has been part of CWN since day one, for anybody not familiar with it. When I was coming up with the idea for a wrestling website, transitioning over from an old one I had been doing, it was himself. It was a guy named Ed Simon. We come up with the concept, the idea of putting the website together. Obviously, I've always been the one kind of with the online savvy, so to speak, putting websites together. Shawn's gotten a lot better, since 2009, so 11 years later. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, Shawn was the original kind of cast members of CWN. So in the 11 years that CWN has existed, I'll tell you this, a lot of ideas have gone through him. And obviously, with the TNT, I had shutting down and me doing the CWN Weekly. For reasons, Shawn decided to continue on with Fantasy Warfare Tournament, which has been absolutely phenomenal. He has the Scumbags of Wrestling, like I said, the group, the podcast. Once independent wrestling comes back to life again, you're going to be seeing the Ontario Indie Road Trip, hopefully back, soon, as well as what was the other one with Tyson Dukes?
The production line.
The production line.
I would go to Tyson Duke's Wrestle Factory and record some of their trainings and their actual matches that they were learning to learn their craft and all the fundamentals of wrestling. And so you get to see stars like The Revolt, Jordan James, and Alec Realm. It's actually Jordan James' birthday today, so happy birthday, Jordan James. Guys like Jim Strider, Violet Lee, all of them learning as they make their way into the Ontario indie wrestling scene.
Yeah, so I tell you this, it is great to have Shawn for episode 10. He has done, I think, with the recap with regards to the last WWE pay-per-view that existed, but not officially on CWN Weekly yet, so welcome him to the show. We'll do the plugs at the very end. But there is a reason for him being on the show. There is a reason for another guest being on the show tonight as well. But we'll leave it at that. We'll get through the rest of the news before we get to that. So, Shawn, have you heard Dark Side of the Ring will return 14 episodes in 2021? What are your thoughts on that? As well as one of the rumors is doing a story, so to speak, an episode on Brian Pillman.
Yeah, I think it's great that they're able to do that. And now that's going to be 14 episodes. I think season 1 was only 8. Season 2 was 10 they squeezed out, and now they've seen that it's such a success for the network that they're allowing 14, and especially in this time that people really can't go out, I guess expenses are going to be saved if they can just do all their interviews via Zoom or anything like this, StreamYard, because then they don't have to travel coast to coast to get these stories.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting concept as far as season 3 goes. Like you had mentioned, StreamYard, Zoom calls, and this and that. Obviously, there's going to be studio stuff. I mean, it's a Toronto-based company, so a lot of wrestlers are within the area. Obviously, the last series they had done with regards to Chris Benoit, Tyson Dukes was part of that. I think who was the other guy from the fraternity?
Kenny Decker.
Yeah, Decker as well. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. 14 episodes. Obviously, it's going to be on Crave TV, as well as I think that's it as far as Canada goes, isn't it? Just Crave?
Yeah, I think TSN was showing it as well. Now that they're desperate for getting any sort of content, they're showing movies, they're showing any documentaries, and I think they have included that as part of their programming.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. So TSN owned by Bell Media. Bell Media also owns Crave TV. I think you're right about that. I think I remember seeing episodes after AEW Dynamite, where all of a sudden they transitioned into some of the older episodes as well. I won't get your thoughts on everything, but I'll get your thoughts on some of the stuff. So Matt Stryker interviews Eric Young on Fight. That took place on the 20th. So if you're looking for a good interview with Eric Young, check that out. Matt Stryker, formerly of the WWE. Sean, I want to get your thoughts on something after I mention this. So SmackDown airing FS1 tonight, Game 3 of the World Series taking place. That is the cool thing about SmackDown, so to speak, is they are associated with Fox. But the fact is, when they can't be on Fox, they're going to be on FS1. Same thing with AEW and TNT. And then I forget what the other channel was for them, but they have the ability to still go live. It just won't be on Fox, and it'll be on FS1. This I want to get your thoughts on, though. Talk is Jericho. Andrew Yang slams the WWE. What do you know about this? What are your thoughts on the whole independent wrestler contract situation? WWE basically makes all these profits. WWE basically lets go of 100 people. And who was it? Jake Hager had mentioned something on Twitter about this. But the fact is, I shouldn't say the rumor has it, but the fact is, when it comes down to it, Joe Biden, if he gets in, Andrew Yang says he's going to change things. Do you see him basically being able to do what he wants to do? Because the last guy who had mentioned anything like this was Jesse the Body Ventura, obviously Minnesota governor at one point. But the fact is, does Andrew Yang have the power to take on Vince McMahon in the WWE?
I'm not sure if he has the power. If he does end up doing so, and it's good for the talent, and great. But it's also a business that's been running for well over 50 years. Wrestling's been around for well over 100 years. And, this is the way the things have been working. Just because things might be different in AEW, where Jericho has said that Tony Khan treats them more like how the Jacksonville Jaguar athletes are, and the soccer team, I think in the UK, they are treated that way, but still having to book their hotels and all that themselves. It goes down to how people run their business. Like, Andrew Yang can't go into McDonald's and tell them how to run their business. What gives him the business and thought that he can go into WWE and tell them how to do their thing? If it works, like I said, great for the wrestlers potentially, but at the same time, we've seen that people are expendable. You don't want to do what the boss is asking? Thanks for coming out. Go find a job somewhere else.
You know what? It's kind of funny. I didn't even think of it that way. You think about, you think about him being a passionate wrestling fan. He's done an interview with Chris Van Vliet. He's done an interview with Chris Jericho. But I never really thought of the McDonald's theory. It's kind of where does he pick and choose who he's going to defend, who he's going to basically, just because he's a wrestling fan. I mean, obviously, it's interesting the way you put it. I never even thought of it like that.
And I have to apologize to Jericho for his thoughts on what he's saying about them needing to get their money for the fact that, Vince can use his likeness on the network, and you can go to the network right now and watch any Chris Jericho thing, and he's not getting a dime. Well, how many times did Chris Jericho come back and sign other contracts after the WWE network started? He knew what he's getting into. He could have made a deal at that time. People were getting residuals for videotapes, and that doesn't exist anymore. So boo-hoo, sorry, Chris Jericho, or anybody else who wants to complain about this after the fact of what you knew.
Jericho is one of those guys, since I've known about him existing, he's always basically shot from the hip. He's not afraid to be controversial. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind, but we'll leave it at that because we can go into a whole hour show on the controversy that Chris Jericho likes to create.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a fan of Jericho. I'll totally admit that. But when you're putting stuff out like that, I'm not sure if I have sympathy for you when, like I said, he's come and gone how many times?
Yeah, there's a reason they call him the demo god, so to speak, because he loves getting people's attention, and he thrives at it, and he basically will put out, much the same as Eric Bischoff, will put out stuff there just to get the hits. Anyways, guys, we'll go into this. Ken Shamrock to be inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame this coming Saturday. So tomorrow I'll go into that. What do you mean timeout?
Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame.
What did I say?
WWE.
Oh, I just saw Hall of Fame. Okay, my apologies. Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame. I will get into that in a little bit, though. But yeah, Sean corrected me. WWE Hall of Fame. Yeah, it's interesting because I will go back and I'll be like, oh man, what I say? I'll have to apologize my next episode. But Sonny Kiss replaces Joey Janela against Kenny Omega, AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday. Impact Wrestling announces Deonna Purrazzo signed long-term deal. And the WWE targeted and COVID probe that was announced by Slam Wrestling as well as multiple sources. So, Sean, I'll get your thoughts on this. Number one, Sonny Kiss replacing Joey Janela against Kenny Omega. Not going into details about the match, but when the fact is you have an 8-man tournament set up the number one challenger for the AEW World Championship, and all of a sudden Joey Janela does the GCW Collective. And then next thing you know, WB targeted in the COVID probe. The coincidence about the two of these things is AEW is in Jacksonville, Florida. WB's obviously in Orlando, Florida, as well as they used to be in Winter Park. What are your thoughts on the fact is COVID still affecting wrestling today as a whole between both companies?
Well, they are in the hotbed of COVID. Florida just can't seem to get their act together, and that's why WWE is one of the 3 of the 15 locations, I believe I read, that are being looked into, that being the Amway Center, the CWC, and Full Sail, which they're no longer at Full Sail, and they're just at the Capital Wrestling Center in Amway. But WWE also shot back saying that they're doing testing and only 1.5% are coming back positive, as opposed to other locations that are 5%. So they're getting things, but they're not having breakouts, apparently, if you believe the numbers that WWE says, compared to everything that way. And as far as COVID affecting wrestling, it's affecting every business. The NFL has had to reschedule games either a day away or a whole week away, and people changing up their bye weeks because of it. Until there's a cure, it's going to be affecting everything we do.
Yeah, I know my Patriots were one of those teams that ended up getting affected. They had a week 5 bye. There was, I think, something I saw yesterday about Super Bowl could be going into March at this point if the games keep getting affected. So obviously, it's COVID's taken a place on not just the wrestling level, but the national level as far as sports and everything else goes as well. I know the NHL at one point was talking about doing arenas again, like doing home field advantage and this and that. But the fact is, now they're talking about doing maybe not 1 or 2 bubbles, but a couple bubbles. You know what I mean? So it's it is what it is. So
it worked for the NBA.
Yeah, and I mean it was tough 3 months for those guys, but the fact is they got through it. And but some of the NHL guys said never again. So we'll have to wait and see where that goes. Some more news here. Every Bound for Glory Knockouts match ever is on YouTube right now, 2007 to 2019, which is kind of cool. So you get Taya Valkyrie, you got Gail Kim. I think it was Gail Kim against Tessa Blanchard at one of those Bound for Glories. I know it was at a pay-per-view. I just forget if it was a Bound for Glory, but I know Gail Kim had won, I think, the Impact Knockouts Championship on the original Bound for Glory, which was kind of cool. Giant Baba Memorial Show announced for February 2021. This I'll go into a little more further detail about. Announced today, this was on the 22nd, so just yesterday, that the next Giant Baba Memorial Show will take place on February 4, 2021 at Corkin Hall. Show is being produced by All Japan Pro Wrestling referee and as well as the All Japan Pro Wrestling ring announcer. basically, the sums it up is the fact is New Japan Pro Wrestling's on board as well. Obviously, Giant Baba was a huge part of the Japanese wrestling, field, so to speak, alongside Antonio Inoki. So it is cool to see them continue it. Sean's got company of his own over there. And for those on audio, I think Sean's mic is cut out there. There's a puppy on film right now, a little hyper puppy. So anyways, we'll leave it at that. Now the puppy's still there. From there, Jordan Devlin returned to action at NXT UK next week. They haven't officially announced anybody who's faced him, but they did that promo with regards to him saying he still is the WB NXT champion. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. There's some controversy online, obviously, with regards to him and him coming back. So we'll have to wait and see on this. And something I want to touch on as well is this. So you've heard me talk on the show about Jim Valley, who's part of F4W Online, the Wrestling Observer. So this was posted, when was it? I think, so about 9 o'clock yesterday, and this was some good news. It actually posted a photo of Jim Valley as well. So his tag team partner, so to speak, so Fumihiko Dio is his name on Twitter. Fumi Saito is his actual real name, but he goes and posts today's update on my friend and podcast partner, Jim Valley. They do the Pacific Rim Pro Wrestling podcast. It says, according to his wife, Carrie, Jim had a solid food and ate successfully for the first time since August. He goes, all right, hashtag Team Valley. Jim Valley's been fighting pretty much all year, but he's been hospitalized, like I said, since August. They've raised, I think, about $53,000 on GoFundMe right now to help him out. Obviously, the American healthcare system is a little bit different from up here in Canada. But the fact is, I'd love to see him back on the airwaves, and it looks like news is becoming good for him. So keep him in your thoughts and prayers. From there, what I'm going to do here, Ben Carter signs with WWE. That is something on its own. Go from there. Sean, I want to get your thoughts on this because I had seen this today. Just let me bring up the article quickly here. So Bret Hart pitched having a cat and as his corner man to see if WCW would actually do it. This comes from Fightful. So Bret Hart accompanied to the ring by a cat. It could have happened. Hitman has been outspoken about his WCW run not living up to expectations. Specifically, Hart told Fightful in a recent interview that not having creative direction, storylines, or promos was a detriment to him. He recalled one instance where he just talked about something that entertained him and it happened to impress WCW brass. Nothing to talk about. I'm going out there and I'm ranting at WCW fans. They have no respect. I'm sitting there going, what else do I have to say? I don't have anything to say. I don't know who I'm fighting or where I'm going, but I remember I got really frustrated and went out there and talked about my cat. I talked about my cat was the only fan, Smokey the cat. My cat was named Smokey. But I remember it was the stupidest interview because I had nothing to talk about. It was almost sarcastic to make it clear to Bischoff in the back. I don't have anything to talk about. The best I can do is come up and talk about my cat. Just remember I came back to the wrestling room. Eric Bischoff goes, I love the part about the cat. He goes, I loved it. Remember scratching my head and thinking for the money these guys are paying me. They sure got some stupid people here. What are your thoughts on basically 22, 21 years later, with regards to WCW storylines and how they're comparing to some of the WB storylines that they're talking about nowadays?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's no wonder they're out of business.
All right, so just got a private chat there from Sean. So I'm going to do this here quickly. Let me see here. Yeah, guys, I'm actually going to just 1 second. I'll get this figured out momentarily here, but it's hard to do messaging and then the show itself. So I'll continue on. I'll get to some feedback just momentarily here, but I just want to keep the show here in order. But my apologies for the somewhat delayed here, guys. But let me see what I can do. You know what? I'm almost through the pro news, so I'm going to do this. Teddy Hart jailed in Texas. That was announced today, unfortunately. So Teddy Hart's still dealing with some legal issues here. Something that got me kind of hot this weekend, there was two things with regards to it. And number one was the whole Alex Reynolds situation from AEW. So, guys, if you watched AEW Dynamite this week, AEW star Alex Reynolds provides an update after the incident on AEW Dynamite. So normally I don't talk about the shows until I go into kind of the reviews about them. But this I'm going to come up with right here. So just give me a second here. And my apologies for not having it up in front of me, but here we go. So Alex Reynolds provides update on his health after incident on AEW Dynamite. Alex Reynolds and John Silver, the Young Bucks private party, along with the Butcher and the Blade, closed the October 21st episode of AEW Dynamite with a 4-way tag match to determine the challenges the AEW World Tag Team titles at full gear. During the match, Private Party hit a drop splash combo into Reynolds, and he was knocked out of the way by the move. Knocked out by way of the move. Reynolds remained in the center of the ring for a period of time. He was dragged to the corner by the Blade. Reynolds was still in the ring as the action continued. Referee Rick Knotts did not appear to check on Reynolds, who was laying by the corner. Reynolds took to social media today and provided an update on how he's doing. Hey guys, just want to let you know, just want to thank you for all the concerns for my health. It meant the world to me. True believe the ref and our doctor handled the situation great on Wednesday's show. Injuries happen in wrestling, but I feel completely safe with our team out here. Thanks again. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. So in saying that, I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to save that just for a second here, because I'm going to go on a little bit of a vent with regards to stuff, because this was the first of two, and the other one I found out today as well. So tag team match set up for Impact Wrestling bound Countdown for Glory. So that takes place tomorrow at 7 p.m. So that is Cody Deaner as well as Cousin Jake. They're going to be taking on the Rascals. So that is Trey. Not, I'm getting my names mixed up here. That is, and my apologies. One sec here. Dez and Wentz, sorry. Yeah, a little bit technical difficulties, but Dez and Wentz are going to be facing the Deaners coming up this coming Saturday. So tomorrow, actually. So that is taking place on the pre-show, so to speak. From there, guys, we go into Phoenix is out of the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament due to the injury. When it comes down to that, it's this. Basically, he suffered an injury in the match with Pentagon. It was talked about since Wednesday. They weren't sure how serious it was, but obviously Aubrey Edwards had done her job in the match. So she had taken care of Phoenix. Obviously, the word comes out, he's not fit to wrestle at this point. So it looks like Pentagon is taking his place. So it'll be Pentagon versus Kenny Omega next week in that tournament to decide who goes on to the finals, so to speak. AEW Dynamite Arena Experience, which was kind of cool. I saw today. TNTDrama.com/All Elite Wrestling /arena. You can kind of get a glimpse of what the AEW arena kind of looks like there. I don't believe they've done, a setup of Daly's Place. I think it's just AEW Arena. But guys, you can definitely check that out. So TNTDrama.com/All Elite Wrestling /arena. It's like a 360 kind of virtual kind of thing that's going on there. So check that out. Lance Storm today talked about his WWE status. If he's open to work with AEW, short form is the fact is he got furloughed. When it comes down to being furloughed by the WWE and you live in Canada, there's a lot of visa issues. So the fact is he basically got fired. In order to bring him back, they'd have to rehire him, go through visa issues as well again. So the fact is when it comes down to it, a longer story than basically just getting furloughed. It wasn't like they could just bring him back. So basically he was essentially terminated by the WWE. And then the last thing I want to mention here before we go into the vent session, so to speak, Josh Alexander of the North will rise again. This is a Slam Wrestling article that's featured on their website right now. So going into Bound for Glory this weekend. So definitely check that out. Season premiere Corner Gas animated. I've got to get this mic thing fixed. I've got to get that little shield thing going on so I can start pronouncing my P's properly. But season premiere of Corner Gas animated this coming Monday, October 26th, 9 p.m. CTV Comedy Network. Episode titled Sound and Fury features Lance Storm, Bret Hart, and the one and only Trish Stratus. So that is coming up this coming Monday, 9 p.m. on CTV Comedy Network. So, two things I wanted to mention and two things I'm going to vent about. And, I'm not going to basically swear or anything like that. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, I've got to vent about it, because the last thing, I don't want to sit there and not pass judgment or not have my opinion on this show with regards to controversial issues and stuff that I feel like that's important. So the first thing I had mentioned was this, with regards to Alex Reynolds and John Silver, the tag team match that had taken place on AEW Dynamite this week. So I caught basically most of the show. The two things, for whatever reason, I had missed was the Jericho segment. I saw him and basically MJF sitting there in the beginning, but didn't catch the song and dance. Heard about it online. I was like, all right, you know what? I got to go back and watch this. So I go back and watch this. And when I went back and watched it, I was like, holy crap, this was something actually phenomenal. The other thing I had heard mentioned as well was John Silver and I think I got that right. Hold on a second. John Silver, Alex Reynolds. So the fact is, when it comes down to it, it was this. Sorry, guys, I'm kind of all over the place right now. But when it comes down to it, it comes down to this. The fact is, where am I here? I will basically say right now, this is probably the worst episode I've done so far. But I will get back on track here. Here we go. So Alex Reynolds provides update on his health after incident on AEW Dynamite. What that was referring to was this. Fact is, when it came down to it, there was a match that had taken place before 4 tag teams. He got hit by Private Party, and he got hit hard. And when he got hit hard by them, he was knocked unconscious in the ring. The referee, Rick Knox, basically gone into the match and basically continued the match, seeing this guy laid out, basically in the center of the ring. So I think it was the Blade who had pulled him back to the corner to continue the match. When the Blade pulled him back to the corner to continue the match, it wasn't right. The referee should have been protecting this guy. Anything could have happened. And the fact is, when you see this guy laying in the friggin' middle of the ring, and all of a sudden these wrestlers are bouncing over top of him and hitting moves and everything else, and the Blade's just like, okay, screw this, we get to continue the match, let's just drag him back to the corner. To me, that's absolute crap. Protect your guys, protect your workers. And for him to come out today and basically say, hey, yeah, you know what? I'm not PO'd at AEW or AEW management. The fact is they did the right thing. The match continued. The company's great, blah, 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 blah. I'm hearing this more times than not about AEW. Fact is, when you saw Matt Hardy and you saw Sammy Guevara and you saw what happened to Matt Hardy, it was complete BS. The fact is, AEW, I feel, are not protecting their guys. And whatever the case is, I think Tony friggin' Khan is more of a fan of the actual product than he needs to be. He's not sitting back. He's not taking ownership. It's the same thing back when Owen Hart passed away and Vince McMahon was like, oh, he wants to continue with the show. The fact is, it makes me hot as a wrestling fan. Shut down the match, pull him out, check on him, get another referee sitting there and all of a sudden checking on this guy and clear him from the ring. Don't sit there and have one of the wrestlers just drag him to the corner and be like, oh, hey, yeah, that's great. The other thing that got me hot today was this, and I read this, and this was courtesy of Slam Wrestling. And I'm not sure where they're getting their news from, because the fact is no other website at this point was reporting it. But I quote, word has it that apparently WWE doesn't think their talent are mature enough to deal with the relationships in their lives, so the entire roster is being forced to attend a mandatory online counseling session starting at the end of this month. That, to me, is complete crap as well. Fact is, WWE, first of all of a sudden, the whole big thing with Andrew Yang taking place. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, yeah, hey, you guys can't go on Cameo. You can't go on Twitch. You can't do this. You can't do that. We own your real names. So that had come out. And that was with regards to Mark Carrano. So with regards to Mark Carrano and all this sort of stuff being announced, the fact is, it's like, oh, hey, and then there was backlash, and then they kind of backed down this and that. Well, when it comes down to it, this goes to another level. It's like me and my wife, okay? We met at my workplace. Fact is, it'd be like them coming to me and saying to me, hey, look, Chris, I don't think you're doing a good job in your relationship. Or, hey, I don't think your relationship's going well. This is what we see. So we're forcing you to do online counseling. We're forcing you to do mandatory counseling, as far as your personal life goes. It's like, holy crap. Like, are you friggin' serious? So like I said, I don't know where Slam Wrestling got this from. It was part of their news and rumors section. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, I haven't seen it reported anyplace else. But the WWE right now is in basically thin ice. And when I say that, it's because of the Andrew Yang situation. And this just adds to it. How many of these guys, basically, when their contracts are up, or if Andrew Yang actually has the ability to do something about this, to be able to get them out of these friggin' enormous contracts, how many of these guys are going to go elsewhere? They are a sinking ship right now. They don't have the stars that they used to. They can't build the stars that they used to. So the fact is, when it comes down to it, this just adds on to that pile of you know what. So it was upsetting to see. I mean, obviously the story with regards to Alex Reynolds, but the fact is, it's also bad to see the story about the WWE. So, guys, highlights of the week, Raw highlights. The Fiend Bliss Retribution segment was pretty cool on Raw. And I'll tell you this, I am a wrestling fan, okay? So, WWE, Impact Wrestling, ROH, AEW, the fact is I'm still a wrestling fan. They can still produce good quality content. But the fact is, when it comes down to it behind the scenes, that's kind of what makes me hot. From there, AJ Styles and Jordan Omabian, I want to say his name is. They had a pretty good segment as well. They put Lana through a table again. Complete crap on that. El Gran Gordo, complete crap on that. Strowman defeats Keith Lee. Not sure where they're going with that. And then Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre. They're building up a pay-per-view this coming weekend, and you will see CWN do the prediction show as well as the recap show. But the go-home show for Monday Night Raw, and that's how they leave it. Randy Orton sits there and it's like, haha, you can't get me. I'm behind this cage. And all of a sudden, Drew McIntyre comes up with bolt cutters, cuts the bolts. And then all of a sudden, he gets inside of the cage. And that's how they leave it. You know, it's like, oh, you know, it's like Saturday night's main event used to be back in the day. But the fact is, there used to be follow-up on Superstars. This is going into a pay-per-view friggin' 6 days later. So I'm not sure where Raw was, where their heads at were with regards to this past Monday. AEW Dark highlights, Sean Spears took on Christopher Daniels. Haven't seen Dark, but it was a 2-hour and 8-minute broadcast. So, if we want free wrestling on YouTube, check that out. Impact Wrestling leading into Bound for Glory tomorrow night. They actually did it right. Hernandez beats Rhino. Rhino's number 1 in that match, the gauntlet match. Hernandez is actually the last guy in the match, so that would be something cool. Rosemary defeats Havoc, so Father James Mitchell is going to be revived. Sammy Callahan's defeats Eddie Edwards. Shamrock with the ankle lock post-match. Trey pinned Rohit Raju in the 6-man tag team match, featuring all 6 of those members that are going to be in that 6-pack challenge, so to speak, or the 6-person scramble, I think Scott D'Amore called it. So basically, Rohit got beat, so obviously there's a good booking there. And then the North and the Good Brothers went to a no contest. ROH highlights for the week. Tracy Williams defeats Fred Yehia. Block A semi. Williams and Lethal Block A finals next week. EC3 finally arrived at ROH. Josh Woods defeats PJ Black, the Block B semi. And then Woods faces Jonathan Gresham next week in the Block B finals. Last week, I had actually announced it was Lethal versus Gresham in the finals. No spoilers there. I kind of jumped the gun, but we'll have to wait and see where that ends up in about 2 weeks from now. NXT highlights, Kushida defeats Ciampa and Dream in a triple threat match. Cool thing about this was Kushida actually won the match on Back to the Future Day, so the 35th anniversary of Back to the Future, but it was October 21st, 2020. So Kushida with the win, which is kind of cool. And then Birch and Lorcan defeats Breezango to become the new champs. Pat McAfee, obviously, with the somewhat heel turn, so to speak. So that was kind of cool. AEW highlights, World Eliminator Tournament. Wardlow defeats Jungle Boy. Omega defeats Sonny Kiss. Phoenix defeats Penta L0M. Obviously, we know Penta's going to the next round because Phoenix is injured. Kind of feel bad. Penta injured his brother. Then we got Paige defeating Cabana. And then Ludiner Dabinier featuring Me and My Shadow. So 2-part duet there between MJF and Chris Jericho. It's kind of hilarious. And then the Bucks defeat Butcher and the Blade, Private Party, and Reynolds and Silver to become number 1 contenders. And then announced for Full Gear AEW World Championship I Quit match announced for Full Gear between Mox and Kingston. And that is Saturday on November 7th. NXT UK highlights, like I said, Jordan Devlin announced for next week. Trent Seven defeats Kenny Williams in the Heritage Cup first round classic match. And then Walter Dragunov, the contract signing was kind of cool there. From there, guys, ratings. We got Raw 1.777 million, so 0.52 in the 18 to 49 demo, 4th overnight for cable. AEW 753.30, 18 to 49, 13th for the night on cable. And then NXT 644, which wasn't necessarily down that much from last week. 0.16 in the demo, 56th for the night on cable, so not necessarily the greatest. Announced for SmackDown tonight, Roman Reigns promo, Law and Otis is taking place. Live preview, 205 live preview. Didn't see anything listed there. New Japan Strong preview. Never Night 1 takes place. Main events Jeff Cobb, David Finlay versus the Bullet Club, which is Kenta and Chase Owens. And then MLW Underground preview. Didn't see anything listed there as well. Bound for Glory is taking place this coming weekend. I wasn't planning on it because I was going to do it on this show, but we are at about 45 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a predictions and a recap show for Bound for Glory. So I will say that I was debating on it, but I think I'm going to do that there. MMA, obviously we got UFC Fight Island 6 that took place last week. So Ortega defeated the Korean Zombie there in the main event. UFC 254 Khabib versus Justin Gaethje is taking place tomorrow at 2 p.m. This I will smallly go over because I'm still learning the MMA grasp. I don't want to get into full kind of cards until I learn as much as I need to with regards to it. So I'm just going to bring up the MMA card here for tomorrow night. Like I said, UFC 254 Khabib versus Justin Gaethje, taking place 2 p.m. live on pay-per-view. So UFC Fight Pass, as well as if you're with Rogers or Bell, you'll be able to watch it there as well. Pay-per-views aren't cheap. They're usually about $60, but this one should be worth it. UFC Fight Island is taking place at. So the early prelims taking place 11 a.m. This is going to be on TSN 3 and 4. So 11 a.m., like I said, tomorrow. Obviously, UFC Fight Pass as well for the early prelims. Prelims themselves taking place 12 p.m. That's tomorrow as well. So TSN 3 and 4. And then the main card, like I said, 2 p.m. Tomorrow at a weird time, so to speak. They've got the post-fight press conference listed as 5:15. So they've got about 3-hour window for the actual main card. And they've got 6 matches taking place, and co-main events: Robert Whittaker, middleweight belt taking on Jarrett Connolly, number 1 versus number 2 ranked there. That's going to be great. And the heavyweight belt has the kind of the triple side of the main event there. So Alexander Volkov taking on Walt Harris. That's number 7 versus number 10. And then, like I said, Khabib taking on Justin Gaethje for title, so to speak, for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world. So, guys, check that out there, UFC 254. So, yeah, I guess that's it. I'm going to play some promos. I'm going to do some checking here, and then basically get into some Canadian independent wrestling, as well as the big announcement that I've got coming up here, guys. So I'm going to get rid of these banners. I'm going to do this. I'm going to play some promos, courtesy of Shawn Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling and Ryan Knight of the Knights of the Squared Circle. And guys, sit back and relax. I'll be right back momentarily here.
Hey, wrestling fans, it's Shawn from the Scumbags of Wrestling. Have you checked out our latest t-shirt design? It's inspired by our friends over at London Comic Con. Nigel Lewis of NCL Studios came up with this amazing design of a comic book cover. It features 22 stars of the Ontario independent wrestling scene, including Cody Diener, Jody Threat, Casey Spinelli, Tyson Dukes, Brent Banks, Tarek, Sebastian Suave, Halal Beefcake, graduates of the Tyson Dukes Wrestle Factory, and many more. You can get your t-shirt for just $30 or buy the poster for $15. Proceeds from this sale are going to go to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto on behalf of Steven's Wrestling Journey. Steven's an 8-year-old fighting Chiari malformation, and they're searching for a cure. You can contact me either through our Facebook page, Scumbags of Wrestling, or email me at scumbagsofwrestling@gmail.com. Get yourself a great t-shirt with an amazing design and help a wonderful cause at the same time. So contact me today and get your shirt or poster.
Are you a pro wrestling fan? Do you want the latest info on shows and the stars that appear throughout Ontario? Are you looking for information and insight into the independent wrestling scene? Want interviews and information on the big leagues? Then you want Knights of the Squared Circle with Ryan Knight on Coyote 103. Ryan has his finger on the pulse of wrestling in Ontario on every level, and he brings that to you every Sunday at noon. Listen for your wrestling fix with Ryan Knight and Knights of the Squared Circle, Sunday at noon, only on Coyote 103.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. If you listen on audio, thank you very much. If you're watching on video, thank you very much. We had I shouldn't say technical difficulties, but I have kind of a game plan as far as the show goes. And then there was a dog in the background kind of messing things up. So we will leave it at that, but kind of change the format of the show. So I'm going to do this right here. I'm going to eliminate this. We will talk about Canadian independent wrestling, but not right at the moment. We will talk about it in a couple moments. So I'm going to do this as well. As you can see, it's just me on the screen here. So I'm going to bring in two guests, and then I'm going to announce what we need to announce here. So number one is this. Shawn, welcome back. And I think Shawn's on mute. I cannot hear you.
Shawn is now off of mute. Yeah, sorry about that. Frank came downstairs. You have off a moment. Sorry about that. Also need to go out. Somebody's also coming to my house and just met. So I want to get that announcement in. So let's get our other guest on.
All right. So we get Shawn Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling. We've also got this lady here. So Christine Pertschy of CWNonline.ca. Christine, how you doing? First time on the show, I believe.
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. But appearance-wise, you're doing great. I think you got better lighting than Shawn does here. So anyways, as Christine's adjusting things. Guys, I tell you this. So what we're about to announce is going to go a lot more smoothly than episode 10 here. But this is it right here. Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. As you can see down below there, we have the official website, so cpwhof.ca. All the social media links as well. The email address is cpwhof@cwnonline.ca, the official hashtag CPWHOF. So the reason for Shawn being on the show tonight, as well as Christine being on the show tonight, is this. So how do we go one step further with the website? And like I said, Shawn has been part of the website since day one. So January 18th, 2009, he was part of the website. Christine has been part of the website, well, kind of back and forth since, I'd say about 2015, or so to speak. I think that's when she attended her first wrestling show ever. But she is the reason for a lot of the feedback. So, and I've got a big banner in my face. I didn't even realize it. So I'm going to get rid of that, and then I'll go on to the announcement here. There we go. I can actually see myself. So when it comes down to it, it's this. I wanted to go one step further. And when I was looking around, and back in 2001, a short story, there wasn't a lot of information as far as WrestleMania 18 coming up. So I decided to invent my own website. Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame right now does not exist. So I didn't want to step toes on anybody that has had a previous Hall of Fame. So the reason for it was this: CPWHOF, so Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, presented by CWN. This is our Hall of Fame. So anything that has to come down to it is this. It's our Hall of Fame. The reason for it is us as wrestling fans, as a group from CWNonline.ca, wanted to create something that was in our names, as well as basically start to build a legacy. So January 18th, 2021, the 12th anniversary of CWN, you will see the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame officially launched. So there is a website. There will be voting that's going to take place as well. But from the website itself, I wanted to announce this. We have categories coming up here. And Shawn, I know you do this on your show, and I'm not sure how you do it. So I'm going to try to replicate it here. But I'm going to do this, and I'm going to bring up these pictures if I can. Now I'm gonna ask you. You know what? I'm gonna ask you on air because I've never done this. Shawn, how do you get the pictures on air and then be able to talk?
Because it's in the overlay part.
So let me see.
So the overlay videos and the overlay pictures.
Okay. So.
Sorry for the pictures. It's the overlay.
All right. So
that I end up doing the predictions part of our show.
Okay, so that makes sense. So while I'm doing the overlay thing quickly, Shawn, why don't you go into, before announcing the categories, small little detail, what are your thoughts on the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing we're going to be doing. A lot of people are going to get highlighted. I have that person at my door right now. I'm sorry. I will be back in just a second. So hopefully you can get that overlay.
All right, so while I'm doing the overlay thing, I'll get Christine's. So Shawn's been back and forth, and he does like 6 podcasts a week. So it's I give him the benefit of the doubt. And guys, we're not making any money off of this, so we're not pissing off sponsors, so to speak. But Christine, what are your? I'll get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts as a whole, just on wrestling when you first had learned about it, so to speak? And I'm talking the days of The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, to maybe attending your first live WWE show, to attending your first live independent show, to basically, what's your take on kind of wrestling as a whole? And I'll tell you, I'll tell you this, guys. So Christine is an educator here in the province of Ontario. She teaches young minds, molds young minds, so to speak. True story is this: as an educator, she once had a student write up a report, a short story, so to speak. It was John Cena versus the cow. And as she's marking this, I'm saying give that kid an A+. So, but as kind of a non-wrestling fan, is just somebody who's kind of known about it, has attended shows, and as an educator, what are your thoughts on wrestling as a whole? Just, I guess, just as a whole.
That's a big question. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, your audio is good.
Here. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess back in the day, I was always told by my mom, that it's all fake, right? but then as I see it more, it's like, obviously there's a whole lot of talent involved to be able to jump off the top of those things, and I think it's impressive. And then also the kids in my, I guess the kids in my class were very impressed that I knew a little bit of stuff about the wrestling. So when I was teaching grade 5, it was nice to be able to have something in common with them. So they thought I was one of their cool teachers,
Now, do you remember John Cena versus the cow?
Yeah, I think the cow won.
Do you remember what you gave the cow as or not the cow, but the kid as an actual mark?
It was pretty creative, so I think I had to give him a good mark on that one.
See, so it probably not necessarily an A+, which I would have given the kid, but that's why I'm not a teacher. Anyways, what are your thoughts on, just quickly here, your thoughts on your memories of WWE versus, say, in Canadian independent wrestling?
Well, they're different because one's got a whole lot of money behind it, and the other one is people just doing what they love to do. So it's nice to see people that are just trying to do something they love for the sake of loving it, I guess. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And the last question before I touch base with Shawn here. So I don't know if you know this, but Wednesday night, there was this guy named Chris Jericho. I know you know who Chris Jericho is.
Mm-hmm.
He did a sing-along with this guy named MJF. You have actually seen MJF in a Smash Wrestling ring here in London, Ontario, fight the one and only Cody Deaner. Do you realize that?
All right, you're talking to me now?
Yes.
No, I don't. I didn't realize that.
So you've actually seen somebody who's on mainstay television with regards to MJF taking on somebody like Cody Deaner. The reason I mentioned Cody Deaner is this as well. Cody Deaner is also an educator here in the province of Ontario. For the longest time, he basically took a step back from wrestling, not signing any big contracts, this and that, to basically do the whole school thing. Now, all of a sudden, he's doing the opposite. He's doing the whole big wrestling thing and kind of taking a leave of absence from school. What are your thoughts on, say, for example, one of your colleagues getting in the ring and cracking a beer open and basically doing what he does in the ring? I mean, is it something you would think is cool as a colleague, or is it kind of like, especially too, because the guy's got a mullet?
I think it's cool. It's we're lucky to work for an employer that's very flexible and lets you have time off to pursue whatever it is you want to pursue, and then they're very supportive, and I think it's cool.
All right, very good. Shawn, well, we still have you on air here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to eliminate us. I'm going to see if this overlay thing that you were talking about works. Hey, there we go. So, Shawn, before announcing the categories, what are your thoughts on the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN? From the time I had first mentioned it to you through Facebook Messenger to the actual website launching yesterday, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really excited about the prospects for it and where it could end up leading to, especially if it picks up after this first induction that we're going to do. And there's so many possibilities for future nominees and inductees over the next couple of years. So hopefully fans and talent can get involved and be honored.
So, guys, we have officially 9 categories in the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2021. One of those categories will not be announced simply because of the name that goes alongside of it, as well as who's involved with it. We will announce that live on the show on Monday, January 18th, 2021, as an honor to this wrestler here. So I'll leave it at that. But the other 8 categories we are going to announce here. So I'm going to bring up the categories just shortly here. Well, actually, I'm going to do it right now, and then maybe once I'm done, Shawn, I'll get your thoughts on the categories themselves. Leave it at that. There will be another 4 categories announced next Friday, and then basically, like I said, that 9th category will be a surprise for the show on the 18th of January of next year. So first category we have is this, the legend category there. So Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. So Legends category, there's going to be 5 names announced to be able to vote on. From there, we go into the second category of the night, which is the male wrestler. Basically 5 names as well. So I will say this, legend category, anybody who had wrestled before 1980 is part of that. The male wrestler is anybody at all, as long as they're Canadian or they have a huge part as far as Canadian wrestling history goes. From there, we go from male into female, same sort of thing. So anybody who's been a female talent here in Canada or it has been Canadian born as far as the wrestling business itself goes. And then how do you go from legend to male to female? Well, obviously you go into this here. Tag team. Shawn has done up some videos as well, which you will see on the show. For whatever reason, I could not download them through email, so I'm going to have to look at that. But guys, those are the 4 categories there. So we got legend, male wrestler, female wrestler, as well as tag team. Shawn, what are your thoughts on the first 4 categories, as well as without giving details, because the names have been decided on, but the vote starts officially November 1st. What are your thoughts on the names that have been passed by for these 4 categories with regards to the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame?
With the talent that are being considered for each award, there's a lot of rich talent and history to be talked about and honored during each category.
Nice political answer without giving anything away. But guys, I'll leave it at this, as I've got both of you still in the air. So the fact is, Shawn's got to go get some food into him before he melts away. Christine, I think, has some typing to do or something like that, so we'll leave her be as well. But guys, I'll say this as well, and we will have a more formal presentation, maybe do a Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame episode on its own. But the fact is, first 4 categories have been announced tonight. Next 4 categories being announced next Friday, October the 30th, the night before Halloween, Devil's Night, I think they call it. Here live on the show for the other 4 categories, and the 9th category will be announced live on January 18th, 2021. We've already touched base with the individual, and he will be part of the show as well, which is absolutely amazing. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, voting will happen through online voting. So it'll be basically mainly done through the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame website. But you'll see links on the Scumbags of Wrestling. You'll see links on CWN Facebook account, as well as the Canadian Independent Wrestling Group as well. So lots of opportunity to vote. I will say this, you'll only be able to have opportunity to vote once. So 1 vote per category. Everything is done through Facebook. So as long as you're on Facebook, you'll be able to log in. But I want to make sure, you weren't voting for the same guy 100 times over. There are ratios to the votes. The ratios I will go into next week as well. But the fact is, first 4 categories, like I said, legend, male wrestler, female wrestler, tag team. And then next week, we'll announce the next 4. And then that final one will be announced on January 18th, 2021. Christine, what are your thoughts on this? Going from a website, put her on the spot, a website basically that existed since 2009. Now, ever since you met me, you've kind of noticed I've been a wrestling fan, and I think Shawn's on his way out. So Shawn, thank you very much for being part of it. Maybe we'll see you next week. But Christine, what are your thoughts on a website basically just putting out a Hall of Fame? Is it something that you think would be is cool? Say, for example, I don't know how to relate that, but if you're a Blue Jays fan, I don't know if there we go. So
yes.
as a Blue.
It's the anniversary of Joe's big home run today, by the way. But anyway.
So Blue Jays actually won the World Series. What was 1992? Or was it 93? It was 93.
92 and 93.
93 was the Joe Carter home run. So what are your thoughts on a website producing a Hall of Fame? Say, for example, the Toronto Blue Jays, they have their own Hall of Fame, so to speak. Do you think it's a cool concept? Would you be interested as a fan? What are your thoughts on just the Hall of Fame as a whole?
I think that coming from fans is more meaningful maybe than, the people that pay your bills, right? So I think that it's a cool concept, and that should be well received by the people in the industry. I don't know how to. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. So, and that's the biggest part about it as well, is the fact is the fan approach, the fan aspect of it. I didn't go to school for journalism. Shawn didn't go to school for journalism, but we've been lifelong hardcore fans. And Christine has been kind of a fan kind of the past 6 years or so, off and on. She will see something that's on TV and kind of be like, hey, what's this? Or, hey, she'll ask questions. Some of the other stuff, she'll be like, oh, why the heck's this on TV? This and that, you know what I mean? In saying that, she does the same thing about the Blue Jays, though. So all of a sudden she'd be like, why is this guy playing for the Jays? This guy sucks. And, whatever the case is. But she's a true sports fan. So as a wrestling fan, she has been invested at times. But at the same time, as a wrestling fan, she understands it's fake. But the real aspect is, how does it catch on with fans? How does it catch on with us? And all we want to do for the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame is honor these guys. So I'll leave it at that. Next week, like I said, we'll announce the other 4 categories. I want to say thanks to Christine for being part of the show. Like I said, she is a contributor as far as CWN goes. She has been for pretty much the past 5 years or so. Won't necessarily see her writing articles or columns or anything like that, but a lot of ideas that basically I have for the show or I have for the website run through her, just to get a good sense. Like I said, she is an educator. So, and if you go to the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame website, you'll see I actually made the quote, she is the brains behind the brawn. So I'll leave it at that. So thanks, Christine, for being a part of the show. We'll have you on again, but we'll leave it at that. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you again.
Thanks. Bye.
So guys, we are back. Just a normal feed here. It's been an interesting kind of a show. It's not your normal consistency here, but anyways, I am getting through it. Not much left, so I'm going to put up the banners back up. And where are we here? There we go. So normal part of the show I would talk about right after the pro segment, right after the commercials there, are Canadian Independent Wrestling. So we are CIW is the hashtag I like to use. Basically, you can find us 2 ways. So the group that's down below, facebook.com/groups/Canadian Independent Wrestling is the first way to be able to find it. The second way to be able to find it is this: go to CanadianIndependentWrestling.ca. And there will be probably a website eventually for that. But right now, CanadianIndependentWrestling.ca forwards on to the group. So check that out. Shows coming up. So RCW Friday Night's Fights, Calgary, Alberta, October 23rd and the 30th. So tonight as well as next week, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time taking place. RCW Saturday Night Fights in Edmonton, Alberta, October 24th and the 31st. So tomorrow as well as Halloween, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time as well. Excuse me. CWE Live, Red Deer, Alberta, taking place October 23rd tonight, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. CWE Live tomorrow, that's in St. Albert, Alberta, so 7 p.m. Mountain Time as well. We have got CWE Live in Grand Prairie, Alberta, that is taking place October the 26th, so that's going to be on Monday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. NSW presents Next Level Online November the 1st, 4 p.m. That is online because it is an iPay-per-view. So no fans in attendance, but they will be putting it on iPay-per-view. I think the pre-show starts at 3:15, so that will be basically free for every wrestling fan out there for 45 minutes. So check that out. And then that is it as far as the Canadian independent wrestling scene goes. So guys, if you have any more shows, the email address to email me at is upcoming@cwnonline.ca. So that is upcoming at cwnonline.ca. So check out that web or that email address. If you have any shows that are coming up before the end of the year that I have not talked about on this show. And then one show I want to make mention of. So No Ring North, Warhead versus Kyle and Cash versus Hardbody. That took place on YouTube. So No Ring North is continuing their YouTube, their online presence. So that was from the 17th, but you can check that out. So No Ring North on YouTube, or you can go to basically our YouTube group And maybe I'll bring that up here because I know episode 7 I attempted to do that, and I had some technical difficulties during that show. Hence the fact I'm hardwired into a router now. So, but guys, I'm going to bring this up quickly here if I can see how to screen share. Do this. No audio. Don't want to get booted. And yeah, so guys, there. If you take a look, that is the official YouTube. I'm actually going to make this full screen and get rid of these banners. Yeah, that makes it a little bit better. So guys, if you check out the CWN YouTube group there, YouTube page. So basically it's just /users/CWN online. It's also just CWN online is the account on YouTube. But as episode 10, you can see we're streaming live. So uploads, basically self-explanatory there. But then you've got CWN Weekly. So every weekly episode I have done, you can check it out on YouTube there. We also get the recap episodes. So like I said, the next ones that's coming up is going to be Hell in the Cell on the Sunday. But like I said, we're going to be doing tomorrow. We'll be doing Bound for Glory for Impact Wrestling. So that'll be the next recap coming up officially. CWN predicts Hell in the Cell there. But like I said, we'll be doing Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory as well. CWN Online. So basically anything that I've been part of outside of CWN, or basically some of the shows that maybe we've been part of. So you see Christine there. That was way back in 2016. We went to WB House show here in London, Ontario. So I done just a minute clip before the show. Support Steven's wrestling journey. He did a promo for the Scumbags of Wrestling. And then you see the Fantasy Warfare tournament, which I had done for a lot of episodes. And then basically, put it to rest. And then Shawn picked it back up, asked me to be part of some of the episodes. You can see the ones I have been part of. Again, not hosting, which has been great. Thursday Night Throwdown, all 29 episodes are on here. So you can see myself, Shawn Bates, Chris Jones, Stephen O'Neill, part of those shows right there. All 29 episodes you can check out there. Fantasy Warfare Tournament, these are the ones I've actually produced and hosted. So if you hover over, you can see me. And that's when I shaved the beard. And then that one I wasn't part of. This one I was, and you can see the beard. So you can see basically with a 2-week span, you can see me with a bigger beard than I actually had back then, all the way through to shaving the beard. And I didn't like that, so I grew the beard back. But you guys, you can check that out. We are CIW here on YouTube, so you can check that out. And then anything that has to do with independent wrestling here in Canada, I will tag and I will add to this this playlist here. So you can see this episode 67. This was CPW. This was 365 Pro Wrestling that they had put out. This was Bordertown Pro Wrestling. George Mackay has an interview with Vince Vaughn Vertigo and the ECCW. And then you can click over and basically see some more stuff with regards to independent wrestling here in Canada. Guys, if you click on this here, you can go through everything that has been tagged by me. And then basically interviews by Steven Spice, No Ring North, as I was referring to earlier, which is on here as well. And then Connect Proud. So this is basically any kind of big YouTube moments that are online with regards to Canadians. As you can see, Edge coming back, 21 million people have viewed this so far. This is in order of how many views they've had. So this you might see change, but these are the top 5 I've seen here so far. So Edge returned at the Royal Rumble, full match, Edge versus John Cena versus The Big Show. For the World Championship at WrestleMania, Hogan versus Warrior, WrestleMania 6. That was just a highlight video, I believe. Full-length match, Hulk Hogan versus Chris Jericho, and then Roddy Piper when he passed away, and the WWE paying tribute to him there. And then wrestling theme songs, which I think is cool as well. And this is related to views as well. So Chris Jericho's Judas right now, 43 million people have viewed it. Bobby Roode's Glorious, 19 million. All the way to Undisputed Era, Ty Dillinger when he's part of WWE, and then Chris Jericho's Break the Walls Down. So Jericho on here twice, but obviously you look at the view count, 2 million versus 43 million there. So it's absolutely unreal here. So guys, that is a little bit about the YouTube. But like I said, I do highlight Canadian independent wrestling as well as Canadian wrestling, as well as any of the stuff I am involved in or any of the stuff that I produce myself. So like I said, Canadian Independent Wrestling.ca, you can check out that group. I think we're over 360 now. Like I said, the push for 400 goes towards the end of the year. So hopefully we'll be able to get that there. From there, Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. We have talked about. To put it this way, it's my way of thanking those in the business, to honor those in the business who have made me a fan of professional wrestling here in Canada. Like I said, we have announced the first 4 categories, so those being the legend category, that's anything prior to 1980. So anybody who wrestled prior to 1980 would be in that category. The male wrestler, female wrestler, tag team wrestlers. Those are basically As far as years go, non-existent, so they can be part of any kind of generation at all. But 5 names per category. So 5 names for the legend, the tag team, the men's and the women's. Next 4 categories, like I said, will be announced next week. So you'll get October 30th. You get the next 4 categories there. Like I said, you check out the website as well. And just want to see. No, I've done this instead. So I'll bring this back up. So Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. So cpwhof.ca is the official web address. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Anchor. Anchor will have the audio versions of the shows that we do. And then email address there, cpwhof@cwnonline.ca. Then the official hashtag CPWHOF. So you can find us there. And it is pretty cool. It's very interesting to put together a Hall of Fame, to kind of create the rules that go along with it, to create the website. I thought the website was going to take me a lot longer, but it only took me basically half a day to put together. So it's not too bad at all. But there's been a lot of back and forth between myself and Shawn Bates, as well as a lot of feedback from Christine. So it's been good. But Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, like I said, the live show as far as the inductees will take place live here on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitch on Monday, January 18th, 2021. So I will leave it at that. Guys, if you've noticed here, I'll say this first and then I'll go into final thoughts. But next show will take place. It's going to be CWN Weekly, episode 11, October the 30th, 7 p.m. Like I said, the announcement of the next 4 categories of the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. That's live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube next Friday at 7 p.m. We've also got CWN Predicts. Like I said, it's going to be a double show. So I'm going to do CWN Predicts Hell in the Cell. That's going to take place 3 p.m. It'll take place on Sunday, live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. We'll do the CWN recap, WB Hell in the Cell, October 25th. So Sunday, it's going to be about 10:30 p.m.-ish. And I say ish because it depends on when the show goes off the air. Usually about 15, 20 minutes after the show goes off the air, and I'll do it up then. That'll be live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch as well. We ran short on time for this episode. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's going to be a live or premiere, but you'll be able to see it on YouTube for sure as far as the premiere goes, as well as Facebook. Not necessarily on Twitch, but maybe we'll have to wait and see. But there'll be CWN Predicts as well as the recap for Impact Wrestling Bound for Glory. So you'll be able to check that out for my predictions for that show there. So it'll be 2 recap shows coming up, 2 prediction shows coming up this weekend. And like I said, episode 11 of the CWN Weekly show coming up next Friday. No, excuse me. So last little bit is this here. So if you're wondering why the pink, and this is why here. So it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, the month of October. So you see a lot of pink as far as the media goes, wrestling in general. Susan G. Komen, WWE does. But hashtag Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So if you have the ability to support, to throw a donation their way, definitely do that up. But like I said, I shouldn't say most of it, but anything that has to do with the graphics, the banners that you see here on the show. So the CWN Online hashtag in the corner there, or even the ribbon on my logo has to do with raising awareness for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So that is why everything is pink there. The best way to be able to reach the show here, feedback at cwnonline.ca. Questions, comments, anything you want to see on the show. I'm not necessarily doing interviews right now. I've done interviews in the past. I feel that the market, so to speak, is a little bit oversaturated. And not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people out there doing interviews right now. So I've taken a step back until I feel the time is right to get back into it. So we'll leave it at that. But feedback at cwnonline.ca is the best way to get in touch with me. Let me know what you want to see here on the show. Let me know if there's any kind of segments that you want to see. I think in the future, I don't know if it would be before the end of the year or next year. I think I want to do some kind of watch-alongs, but do them as kind of like, say, for example, hey, Survivor Series coming up, but go back and tell me to watch 1987 Survivor Series. I'll watch it. I'll take notes. I'll come back on the show and I'll recap it. Basically like I've just seen it live for the very first time. Now, obviously, I've seen Survivor Series 87 probably about 10 times now. That was the very first inaugural one, Hogan and Andre, of course, in the main event. But it'd be interesting to go back and see some of these shows and then do a review on some of these shows. So if you're any shows you want to see me do reviews or recaps on, like I said, feedback at cwnonline.ca. And this has been long-winded. So I think we're going to get off the air here. But best way to get in touch with me at Chris Maloney CWN. That's on Twitter as well as Instagram. Like I said, that is the best way to get in touch with me here. Again, guys, like I said, with regards to, I just want to make sure I'm all set up to get off the air here, because the show has been kind of hit and miss. But I think I'm good. So I'll say this, at Chris Maloney, so at Chris Maloney CWN, Instagram and Twitter. My apologies for the cluster of the show. It was a little bit back and forth and kind of, wasn't necessarily according to my notes, but we got through it. The main thing was Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN, taking place officially Monday, January 18th, 2021. The 12th anniversary of CWN. So looking forward to that. And like I said, next week on the show, we'll announce the next 4 categories, but you can check out the website right now, cpwhof.ca, and all the social media links as well. You can check out what's going on with the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. So guys, that is it. Thank you very much for listening and watching to this long-winded show. Thank you very much to Shawn Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling and of course of CWN. Like I said, he's been with me since 2009 as far as its website goes. So the website wouldn't have existed in the way it has without him, because a lot of feedback, a lot of suggestions have come from him with regards to everything from 2009 all the way through to current. Thanks as well to Christine Pertschy. She basically, like I said, is the brains behind the brawn, so to speak. A lot of ideas have gone through her. She's given me suggestions. The 9th category, and I'll say this, and I've said it on the website as well, but the 9th category for CWN, the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, was basically thought of by her, suggested by her. And I ran through and went back to Shawn. Shawn gave me his input. For the 3 of us decided, yes, the category needs to exist. And then we reached out to the individuals on board. And then so the 9th category, and I'll explain it better come January. I'm going to leave it at that, but it was a triple threat idea between myself, Christine, and then Shawn. Great on that. Best way to reach me personally, Chris at CWNonline.ca. Shawn is Shawn at CWNonline.ca. Christine is Christine at CWNonline.ca. And I'll leave it at that. And like I said, as far as the show goes, feedback at cwnonline.ca goes. So guys, if you're still watching, listening, thank you very much for listening and watching. See everybody for the prediction shows as well as the recap shows this coming weekend, as well as episode 11 of CWN Weekly next Friday, October 30th, 7 p.m., Facebook, Twitch, as well as YouTube. So guys, that is it. Thank you for watching and listening. Enjoy your week, and I'll see you guys soon, okay? Take care.